Good morning and welcome to the SitRep for today, which is the 9th of July. Get some cameras right there. 9th of July, 2022. We're getting through it. It's happening, this 2022 thing. I hope you're having a great morning / afternoon, evening. I don't know what time you're watching this or where in the world you are where you're watching it, but whatever part of the day it is, I hope you're having a good part of the day. And it's not as cold as it is right here. Yes, it is freaking freezing. Just do it okay 3. Doesn't just look cold, it feels cold. It is cold where I am right now. And this room that I'm in, I've been away for the last couple of days, so it's been shut up. So a cold morning with a room that hasn't been opened up for a few days. Yeah, it's cold. All right, so for those who haven't joined before, this is the part of the game where I go through news stories and have a yarn about them from the perspective of how we can best prepare ourselves. And I've totally forgotten to record this on anything. That's all right. We'll just have to do it as is today. All right, so what's happening in the news today or in the past 24 hours? Interesting little report coming out from a strategic standpoint when we're thinking about Ukraine, thinking about World War III, what's happening there. There's been a number of things that have happened in the past couple of days that have kind of been portending doom in that space. This one here I thought was quite interesting because it's a bit of confirmacy bias for myself in that it's confirming a theory that I have, which is all the stuff that we're being told about from the Western media, i.e. the Western propaganda machine, is telling us that Russia has been all but defeated. It was a horrible, stupid, and embarrassing mistake for them to go into Ukraine. However, people who know a little bit about military type stuff have been looking at it and going like, maybe, but maybe not also. I've certainly been looking at it and going, something doesn't stack up here. From what we know about the Russian military before they went into Ukraine and to how they actually enacted their plan when they went into the Ukraine, something didn't quite stack up. In that it didn't look like they committed a lot of their forces. The forces that they did commit, the military hardware and things like that, seemed to be very old, very aged, surplus. I would even probably put it in the realm of, and a lot of the actual soldiers that we were seeing on thrown up on the media seemed to be either very, very young, inexperienced, and from areas of the military that weren't well trained in the first place. So what my take on it was this, that Russia had committed very little of their force into Ukraine. We're kind of trying to maybe do this whole thing by sending in reserves, sending in sloppy units, and maybe even just testing out units, getting rid of the chaff, as it were, first, and maybe trying to blood a few of their more inexperienced units in order to gain experience. Almost like they were treating it like an exercise. Almost like they were treating it exactly what they were saying it was, instead of a war. But it just seemed to me like they were sitting on a lot. They were sitting on a lot of their reserves and weren't committing a whole heap into the actual fray. Well, Putin's come out overnight and basically said, as a warning to the West, let West try to defeat us on the battlefield. We haven't started anything serious yet. And, Western media is just saying that this is a whole heap of hot air being blown out by Putin, and perhaps it is. But I think this is probably a little bit more serious than or a little bit more real than people believe. Sorry, I'm just got a warning from my computer that it's about to die because I haven't plugged it in. So as I'm talking here and doing this analysis, I'm going to try and plug my computer in. How highly unorganized this morning? What do you mean this morning? I'm always highly unorganized. This should be no surprise to anyone out there. What kind of prepper is unorganized? What kind of prepper doesn't plug their computer in? Honestly, totally unprepared for this SitRep this morning. Anyway, so that's what I'm seeing there with this this report coming out. This one I actually got from 09JUL, which is generally kind of following more on the Western side of things, but not necessarily on the side of Western things, if that makes sense. They're a bit of counter narrative news. Yeah, and I think it's very interesting. It's also very aggressive in of itself. Putin coming in and saying, "Hey, let them try. You want to fight a war? Let them try." The other part of this, the other interesting part of this, is I think Putin is starting to call the bluff now. So especially the US, but a lot of other NATO countries have been sitting there going like, "We're gonna come in. We're gonna do it. We will commit these forces." And now Putin's calling the bluff, and he's saying, "I've seen I see what you have done there, and I raise you this. Now it's up to you. Are you going to play this game? Let's do it. Let's play it. Let's go." So I'm quite interested to see what will happen here. Will NATO step up to this challenge? Will they try and brush it aside? I think they'll probably try and brush it aside. But it is yet another sign that what we're being told is not actually what's going on. It's also another sign that the Western power, the homogeny of power that we have all been enjoying for so long, is severely in decline. This here is seen as an enemy, and the enemy is basically slapping the face and going, "What's up? What are you going to do about it?" And if the response is nothing, if the response from the West is, "Oh, that's just Putin talking shit, and we're winning the war. It's okay. We're going to commit another $14 billion into Ukraine." That to me is tantamount to the West saying, "We are now weak. We cannot actually do anything." Because I think my analysis, without knowing any of the ins and outs, without having high-level security clearances to know what's actually going on and what the West knows about the Russian military might, what I think is actually happening here is the West is actually looking at it and going, "We know that Russia has more than they have committed to Ukraine." And I think that's pretty obvious from my perspective. But again, this is just my perspective. Anyway, that's something very interesting to me that I saw overnight. Something that we need to keep an eye on. And what I'm seeing is the opposing forces to the West, are getting bolder and bolder by the day. And it's things like this that is going to lead Australia into war. And it might not seem like it's obvious that we're going to head that way, but it is to me. This is the sort of stuff. It's Putin going like, "Come at me, bro. Come on. What are you going to do? I don't think you can do it. I don't think you can punch your way out of a wet paper bag, Biden. So step up." Because Xi Jinping is looking at that, and he's like over the other side of the bar, and he's like, huh. Biden's talking a big game here, but he ain't actually backing up and doing anything. How are those sanctions working on Russia? Well, what? They're making more money than ever, and we're getting cheap oil out of it? You know what? Taiwan, let's do it. So, yeah, that's the state of play this morning. What's happening in the US as well? Well, the US military might is shooting itself in the foot. 40,000 Army National Guard. So National Guard is kind of like what we would call reserves in Australia, but it's different. Being that part of the Constitution of the US, as I understand it, and please, if anyone wants to correct me on this, please do. I am not in any way a US constitutional expert, but I've got a rough sort of like very, very irresolute picture of how other countries work. And my understanding of the US is this: they cannot deploy their military forces, their full-time military forces, onto their own country That's to prevent any sort of coup or anything like that happening. So what they do is they have another section they call the National Guard, and the National Guard do get deployed. That's primarily what they do. They just get deployed on US for domestic type situations, and it's usually like disaster situations and things like that. So where in Australia, where the potential is there for us to have a massive natural disaster and go, we're in trouble, send in the army. We can send in any part of our army onto Australian soil to do whatever they want, basically. We're not so worried about the about a coup here in Australia. So yeah, the US is a different system. Their constitution creates a different system there. So they have that National Guard. So 40,000 of these National Guard soldiers plus 22,000 Army Reserve soldiers, which is, again, this in-between space that I'm not 100% sure where they fit, but they're not full-time Army, they're part-time Army. That's kind of how our reserve works. So we're looking at 62,000 soldiers in total. Now, why am I quoting this number? Well, this 62,000 soldiers, part-time reserve sort of soldiers, National Guard and Army Reserve soldiers, have not complied with COVID-19 vaccination mandates and have now had pay and benefits removed and are prohibited from participating in their duties, so they can't work. In effect, being fired. Good time, really good time to do it. If I was the US and I'm looking at we're like half stuck our foot into a war over in Ukraine, and we're trying to pull our foot out of that in order to jump into a potential war over in the Pacific in Taiwan. Good time to get rid of 62,000 soldiers. Like, really smart thinking there, forward planning there from some of the head shed and from some of the politicians. Like, again, the utter insanity of all this sort of shit, it just bemuses me. It absolutely bemuses me. And for what? For what? For this vaccine thing? Are you saving lives with the vaccine? Is the vaccine even slowing down the pandemic? I don't really care, I'm not trying to comment on the vaccine or anything or the disease itself. I'm just saying, hey, from a statistical standpoint, we look at how many people are vaccinated right now. Is it doing any of the things that we need it to do? Nope. Okay. Maybe we should think about easing it off for some people. Maybe military might be one of those people that you want to ease it off for. Just saying. Anyway, I'm not in charge of the US military or any military for that matter. So, that's my 2 cents on it for what that's worth, which nowadays is not worth much considering inflation. I think 2 cents, my 2 cents is worth probably about a tenth of a cent now, considering inflation. So if you actually want to get your thoughts across now, 2 cents has now gone up to $2.50. That's my $2.50 for today. Eric the Red says it's almost 8 p.m. on the 7th here in Indiana. So I'm reaching through to you, Eric, from the future. I'm giving you the heads up of what's going to happen. Back to the Future 2 style. We'll create an empire. Put $50 on horse 3 on race 8. Trust me on this. No, don't do that. So yeah, this is interesting stuff. A lot of these soldiers too have applied for exemptions from it, and according to the numbers here, of all, I don't know how many people have actually applied for exemptions, but it might be even up to 60,000. They've actually approved 0 on religious grounds and 6 on medical reasons. Cool. So those 6 people got through. Great. It's on you now to defend your country. Good luck. All right. What else is happening around the world? Let's start with more protests and more farmers' protests, because you know that this is something that I'm particularly interested in, and I think this is the point of the spear right now as far as the world goes, where we are seeing an attack on our food system, and we need to do something about it. People need to step up, and it's the farmers who are stepping up. It's the farmers who bear the brunt on good years of doing the hard work and feeding the country or countries, the world as a whole. It's the farmers that are out there that are doing that. On the hard years, who feels the brunt of that? It's the farmers that feel the brunt. When we have drought for 5 years, who gets smashed by it? The farmers. Who doesn't get the easement of things like loans and mortgages? The farmers. Whose suicide rate is through the roof in comparison to the rest of the public? It's farmers and ex-military, as it were, and other emergency services. But farmers also, like, crazy high suicide rates, because, like, literally these are the people that are bearing the world on their back. They're the ones out there working. And now who's getting smashed by all these green policies in a time where we just simply cannot afford to do that? It's the farmers. So who's out there protesting about this? It's the farmers. It's not your university students. It's not your Karens. It's not all the people that I saw out there going, no war in Ukraine. And I'm like, you're Australian. What the fuck do you care about a war in Ukraine for? Oddly enough, though, I drove past the other day, and there was instead of the blue and yellow flags and no war in Ukraine, there were a whole bunch of red flags and a sign that said, I support Russia. And I was like, I'm even more bemused by this. Like, what? What is happening here? So we've got all these hot topics, and people are out there rioting and charging and Roe versus Wade and all this sort of stuff. Like, do you think any of that shit matters if you can't put food in your mouth? This is the sort of stuff that the average people should be protesting about. But again, it's on farmers to do it. I guess they're the ones who are getting belted by it the most. So it makes sense that they're out there, trying to protest about this. So this is in Poland. So Polish farmers strike back in mass protest. Polish farmers organized a mass protest in Warsaw on Tuesday against the government's agricultural policy and rising inflation. This is in Poland. Just to give you a bit of a heads up of where that is in the world, that's right next to, that borders a little country called Ukraine. All right. So they probably legitimately should be protesting the war in Ukraine, because it affects them in a very real sense, and it could affect them much more seriously soon. Yet they're out there protesting about their food system, about farming. This is on the back of Italian farmers also doing it, and of course the ongoing Dutch situation with the farmers over there, which appears to be getting more and more serious, and appears to be getting less and less traction in the media. In the mainstream media, that is. Here's another story on it, that there's been a warning from Italian farmers to their politicians that they're coming to Rome. We are coming. Very interesting times with these farmers, and it's something that we all need to be concerned about. All right, what else have we got going here? What else do we have? UK dairy farmers warn of price rises amid chronic staff shortages as well. So apart from all the things that are happening, apart from all the fires that are happening, apart from all the diseases that are wiping out crops and wiping out animals and livestock, apart from the supply chain problems that we're seeing, apart from just actual inflation itself and inflationary pressure, they're now saying staff shortages are also going to drive up prices. And I was talking about this yesterday or the day before, that UK is currently seeing crazy increases in food. And one of the big increases has been in dairy, where cheese in some parts of Europe and the UK is getting security tags put on it so people don't steal cheese. Butter is getting security labels put on it. I don't know why they do that. Are people like opening up the butter, scooping out a bit, sticking it in their pocket and leaving? Why are they putting security seal stickers on butter? But I don't know what's going on there, but there's some sort of insanity obviously going on there. Increases in prices like this always equal increases in theft. So obviously there's a lot of theft coming in and shopkeepers are having to take action. Italians love a protest. Even the great grandmas get in on it, from Lauren. Because she knows what the Italians do. She's been there. She kind of is one. Don't fuck with Nonna's food supply. That's right. Why you not finish up at Scary? You know, she work all night on this. Sorry if I offended any Italians there. I grew up in Melbourne. It's a large Greek and Italian communities down there. So I did used to get yelled at by nonnas every now and then for being a rat bag. Good times. Yeah, if they can't punch out that gnocchi, there's going to be a war. That's what's going to happen. All right, what else is happening in the world? Moscow is swamped by a stormy deluge. Footage showing parts of Russian capital flooded due to heavy rain and strong winds, which have reportedly torn roofs off several buildings and felled trees all over the city. So big storm damage. You ever watched these before? You know, I'm always on that weather effects, meteorological effects around the world. I'm very interested in it. I'm very interested in the trend that I think I'm seeing here, that we are seeing increased weather events and more extreme weather events. And my belief is that we will see more extreme, more frequent weather events. And it's something that as preppers, we should have our mind set to, because it is something that is hard to mitigate. You can't really stop them happening. It's also high impact, can have an extreme impact. Things like floods, things like even extreme storms, things like fires, bushfires and things like that can easily dislocate you from your home. They can push you out of your home at a moment's notice. So this is the sort of stuff. You can prep all you want. You can have all these cool stores, but unless you've got some stuff ready to go, I'm looking over at a series of bags that I have here, big duffel bags. I shot a little video on it, so you can check out my videos on one of my grab bags. I've also got another one sitting underneath it about shelter, which I'll try and shoot another video on soon. But I can just load them up, quickly grab them, chuck them in the car, and go camping if I want. Or in an emergency, I can grab them, chuck them in the car, and know that I can kind of create a little home anywhere out there. Even if I'm out in the wilderness, if I'm at a friend's place, I've got my own goods. If I'm out in their backyard, wherever it is, if I'm in a park or a refugee area, I don't know. Whatever it is, I've got my own stuff. I am self-reliant in that sense. So this is the sort of thing, and this is why I like to point out these meteorological effects. Despite flooding in Moscow, who cares? Well, it doesn't affect us like here and now. But are we having flooding in Australia right now? Yes, we're having it in Sydney. Are people dislocated from their homes right now in Sydney? Yes. And as any of you know, when I go up to Sydney and work and have to hang around there because I don't like doing it, I always walk around and go like, what are these people, like, where are you getting your news? What, like, you're just walking around with your head up your asses for 99% of the time. What if something bad happens? Nah, it's Sydney, like, we're all great. Well, right now, things aren't all great in Sydney, and people are finding out that you may have to be prepared even in a big city. Lauren said, I'm offended by your gnocchi pronunciation. I'm just going to leave that there. What else do we have in the world? There's a couple other weather effect type stuff. Mumbai is on red alert due to heavy rain and flooding. There's obviously been extreme rain. There's extreme rain every year in India. It's the monsoon, right? It appears that this year is much, much worse, that we've had a lot of flooding events. We've had a lot of landslide events. We've had landslide events on top of landslide events, which are impacting the rescue efforts that are going on. So within India. And now Mumbai, major city, is on red alert due to rain and flooding. So they've been having huge amounts of problems over in this part of the world with water at the moment as well. I think there was one more story somewhere. I cannot find it. That's all right. So we've got a lot of water getting pumped out, falling from the sky all over the world. Other parts of the world are in extreme drought. Western part of the US, still in drought, still in trouble over there. What else is happening in the world? Record lithium prices. Rocketing prices of lithium, which is a crucial ingredient in a certain type of battery. A lithium-ion battery. What do we use those for? Oh, that's right, they're rechargeable. So we use them in those little rechargeable batteries and in bigger 12-volt rechargeable batteries and in bigger ones like the ones that go on your home or in every single electronic vehicle that gets created. So it's kind of a big deal that lithium prices are skyrocketing at the moment. I mean, who could have seen this happening? Who could have seen this happening as we started to push into the green revolution, that all the constituent products that are needed for renewable technologies was going to go through the roof? No one could have predicted that, except anyone who had half a freaking brain in their head. It's one of the reasons why I always say, hey, silver is a really interesting thing to me because it's traded as a commodity in of itself. It's always had value and has been used as money, as actual exchange of wealth money for thousands of years. But it's also one of the key products in a lot of renewable energy technologies, the primary one probably being solar panels. Right now, silver is at an insanely cheap price. Everything must go. I don't know why. Silver and gold have a suppressed price at the moment. I was looking at it this morning. So much so that I'm like, I get to this point and I'm like, okay, I like what I've done. I don't need too much silver or gold. Maybe that's enough. And then price drops like this happen and I'm looking at it, I'm like, oof, maybe just a little bit more put. Just a little bit more. Just a little bit. Just another silver coin. That's all you need. No, it's just interesting. Like, I'm not saying you should go out and buy any or anything like that. Just, as somebody who tracks the price of these commodities, they appear to be down at the moment. So quite interesting. What are we up to here with lithium, though? April prices hit $78,000 a ton. Increases that have leapt up over 600% this year. 60% of the world's known lithium supplies are found in Argentina, Chile, and Bolivia. China remains the fourth largest producer, despite having just 7% of the global amount. So quite interesting. Elon Musk came out and said lithium will be the limiting factor for technologies, for these sorts of technologies, and he's speaking primarily about electronic vehicles. He said that lithium's going to be the limiting factor. That's going to be the problem. So there you go. More holes being shot in the big green dream. More holes being shot in the big green dream. Canadians, I'm not sure if any Canadian has ever watched this particular presentation. They've ever jumped on my talks, but if you are Canadian, you appear to be having a bit of problems paying with electronic means. So this one really piqued my interest. It jumps up at me because this has actually happened within Australia, and it's happened in my town a couple of times where the cell network has been knocked out. The major company has been knocked out, and so no one's got any cell service in town. But as part of that, also nobody could tap, and any Australian can tell you that Aussies are sick for the tapping. They love a good tap. They tap that. What, you want to pay for that? Tap that. Bang, bam, 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 bam. We're always tapping. We are one of the highest uptakes in the world of tap technology for paying for goods. Totally sick for it. And so then when there's communications disruptions, it kind of like puts a real kink in everyone's plans. Cash money still has a purpose, gang. Money still has a purpose. I always have money here in my house. Don't be coming around here if you're a would-be thief. I also have other things to dissuade people from entering my house if I don't want them to. So, but as an idea, as a prepper, this is something you should think about. Do you have cash money? Because in an emergency and in a some form of grid down emergency like this is in Canada at the moment, where they're having a nationwide internet outage, you can't pay for anything. So if you are reliant on electronic means to pay for everything that you do, that's going to be a problem. I'm leaving out all the, never mind the fact that you're getting tracked and that somebody is watching every single purchase that you do when you're tapping it, and it can be easily traced. So retrospectively, somebody could go back into your bank records and look at it, not even your bank records, into a business's records. So they could subpoena a business or businesses or even a credit card company and find out what you're doing. They don't have to look at your stuff in particular. Anyway, apart from all that, just the ability to pay for something. And I've seen this when I've been in emergencies, when I've been in natural disasters in these sort of areas, in these zones. This is one of the first things that disappears. Oh, what, you can't pay for it? People are like, I need to fill up with petrol. Go in, hey, I need to tap my card. And the person's like, well, we don't have any communication, so you can't do that. We are taking cash only today. I'm sorry, just go get some cash. How? Where? Can I get cash out here? No, you can't. Our electronic means are down, so you need cash. So I always have cash here. And there's other occasions, like just the other day, I got a wood delivery, and the person's like, "Hey, I need cash. I need money for this. I'm just a person who cuts wood and delivers it to people. I don't have any sort of machine or anything on me." And I'm like, that's not a problem at all. I have cash right here. Let me go get you the cash. And I come out with cash. So, yep. As Nutera is saying, cash is king. Cash is a king under siege at the moment. Cash is maybe a prince right now. It's been knocked down a peg or two. But in an emergency, cash is definitely king. And where we can, I think we should try and pay for things with cash. We should start to go back to that. I think we should fight this cashless society thing. I don't think it leads to anywhere where we want to be, gang. So let's start to reverse that a little bit. And I do have to admit, put the caveat in here that I am a sucker for tapping stuff. I am great at forgetting cash and walking out the street and going all of a sudden like, oh, I want a coffee. I got my phone on me. But where I can, I try and think about that and take cash with me. And it's also really funny for me to watch people at shops when they go, oh, that'll be, $5, please. And they slide the machine at me and I like pull out a note and they go, oh, and they sort of look at their hands like, can I touch this filthy thing? Will I die if I touch this? And they're like, and they take it and they're like, and they're like looking around for a button that opens some magic drawer down here. Oh, there's more money in here. Oh, fuck, now I've got to do maths. And you watch them sit there for a second going like, okay, I'm minus that, take that. Is that enough? There you go. There's some money. I'm like, yeah, well done. That was really good. I'm forcing you to do maths. Do the chopper no cash here skit. I don't know that one. Chopper no cash here skit. My chopper. I think Chopper Reed. My Chopper Reed impersonation isn't so good. I've got some scissors here. I'll just cut my ears off. Bit early in the morning for Kung Fu, isn't it, mate? Anyway, yeah, so that's happening in Canada. 6 hours, half the country, no access to wireless internet. Imagine, I could only imagine all the younger millennials, the Gen Zers, all that just blowing up, just sitting there staring at a blank phone and then going like, what do I do now? What's this? What's happening? What is this? People go, oh, you're probably having an emotion, actually feeling something. It's probably boredom or something. Oh, it's horrible. Do you old people feel this all the time? Oh, kind of used to, but then we used to go do stuff. I shouldn't pick on the young kids. They're all right. They're our future, right? I believe the children are our future. On your bike, economic crash puts Sri Lankans in a spin. This one was interesting. I like to talk about Sri Lanka and what's going on there. I like to watch Sri Lanka like some weird voyeuristic person, like just staring in the window of Sri Lanka, just like, what's going on over there, Sri Lanka? You guys having some troubles? No, I'm a big believer that what's happening in Sri Lanka is going to spread throughout the world pretty soon if we keep going the way we're going. So I'm trying to learn lessons off you, Sri Lanka. I'm really trying to take on what's happening there and what went wrong and how to best prepare for it. Well, here's one. When you got no fuel and you need to get around, you might need a pushy. You might need a treadly. You might need to get on your bike and push. So there's been a crazy uptake in Sri Lanka for bikes. They've been like the demand has just absolutely skyrocketed. This is the sort of stuff that I'm always looking at and going, it's these unintended things or these unthought about things sometimes where something happens and all of a sudden we've got no toilet paper on the supermarket shelves. Like nobody predicted that. No one thought that Australians were that freaking stupid that they would freak out about toilet paper of all things. So it's always those things that I'm looking for. What's going to happen? Bikes. So this is something that's logging in my mind. I don't have a push bike right now. I've been in the market and been looking around for one for quite some time and not practicing what I preach, where I said to you all, I said, hey, end of financial year sales, rising inflation, if there's been something that you've been sitting on thinking about, maybe now's the time to do it. Well, maybe now is the time for a push bike, maybe even an e-bike. I'll think about that. If anyone's got any e-bike recommendations, let me know. So that's the sort of thing that I'm looking at and thinking about now. A push bike's not going to stack up to my ute, right? It's not going to do as well as my ute. But to be honest, right now, I'd get further on a push bike than I would my ute. Anyway, my new ute's coming. It's getting here. If anyone wants an old ute with a cracked head, let me know. Nutera says, I'm a sucker for tap and pay. Just bought a pie and used the phone. Yeah, I do it all the time too. James, I'm Canadian, eh? Awesome. Welcome. Great. Spreading out, Got people from Norway, people from the US, got New Zealanders. I've got Canadian. That's awesome. Cool. Well, welcome. I'm glad you're watching this. I'm not sure. I hope there's some benefit for people around the world. Obviously, I try and put things in a bit of a slant from the Australian perspective because that's where I'm sitting right now. But a lot of the information I put out there should be from everywhere. Regant J says, greeting from WA. Either that's Western Australia, the People's Republic of Western Australia, under the Overlord McGowan, or it could be Washington State. So one of those two. One of those places is a lot closer to me than the others. But they're both foreign countries to me. That's a joke anyway. But if anyone's more Lord McClown. If anyone's not Australian, there's this ongoing joke which is actually starting to become serious that Western Australia, the western part of Australia, is going to secede from the rest of Australia. And it's actually starting to pick up speed. It's actually starting to get traction. It's always just been this joke because they're like, it's a long journey. It's a long, hard journey to get over there. So the West and the East don't mix that much. So just context for anyone who's not within Australia and doesn't quite get it. James says, I don't have internet outage here in Canada. Never heard of this. Okay, that's interesting. It did say it was only in one half of the country. Where's that story gone? 6 hours, half of the country, and I'm not sure which half. I'll have to look that up later on. But interesting that you hadn't even heard of that. I saw that story and then I was flicking through YouTube and I saw one of the people I follow on YouTube who is Canadian prepper, Nate at Canadian Prepper. He had a video on it, and I didn't get to watch it. I didn't have the time to watch it this morning, but I'll watch that and I'll see what he's got to say about it. But James might want to check out Canadian Prepper channel on YouTube as well, if you don't already. But I'm pretty sure he's got a video about it. Anyway, back to bikes, right? Push bikes. So these are the sorts of things that we need to think about. And the reason I like that story is that I'm always thinking about worst case scenarios, what's going to happen, and having that redundancy. So yes, if I can have a vehicle, a motor vehicle, then I will have that. But that's not good enough because I need fuel for it. So I have a backup of fuel as well. But even that could run out. So then what's the next tier down? Should I have a motorbike? Should I have a four-wheeler? Should I have a e-bike? Should I have a push bike? These are the sort of things that I want to think about as far as redundancy goes. So just a little reminder this morning, like, to build redundancy into your systems, whatever you're doing. Old army adage. I'm building a collection of these adages that we used to use in the army. We used to call them like old jungle sayings, which I think is from the Phantom comics. But old jungle sayings, old adages, one-liners from the military. I'm going to write a book on them and explaining them. But one of my favorites is one is none, two is one. And all that's means is if you've got one of something and it breaks, then you have nothing. So we would never have just one form of communication. Whenever you're going around in the world, you've got your one form of communication, you've got your mobile phone, but you maybe throw in some sort of backup communication. So, UHF radio might be an example of that, or satellite communication might be an example of that. One is none, two is one. Two is one, the theory being if something breaks, you've always got something else to back it up. It might not be as good as, it might not work the same way exactly, but it is a form of communication or a form of traveling, a form of mobility. So when the zombie apocalypse comes, you'll see me wheeling around in my helmet and my body armor with a gun strapped on my back and riding along. Maybe a mount for my gun on the front. No, I'm probably not going to do that. That's going a little excessive. All right. Well, that's all the stories I've got for today. There was plenty more. I just didn't want to go too long today. And here I have gone 42 minutes anyway, because I like to do that. As always, if you've got any questions, please send them through to me. Really interesting times that we're living in. I didn't talk about what is probably clearly the biggest story that's exploded on here. It does pertain to prepping, actually, and I will finish off on this story here. It's about obviously Abe, the ex-PM of Japan, got assassinated yesterday. So I was halfway through teaching a course, or helping teach a course on self-defense sort of stuff yesterday, and my phone beeps and I look at my watch and it says, boom, ex-Japanese PM has been shot. And so I was tracking that story yesterday. Unfortunately, he's passed away. And I've watched a lot of the video of that and looking at that, just as a reminder to everyone from a prepping perspective, what impact does this have for us? What lessons learned can we take from this? Situational awareness again. So again, when I'm talking and I'm saying, hey, we're going to see increased violence within our societies moving forward. That's the way the world is going to be. I can guarantee it. Or as much as I can guarantee anything, I can guarantee that we will see more violence in our world. And yeah, we saw it. We saw attacks that have been happening in and around the US. We saw these July the 4th attacks, two separate attacks that hit the actual mainstream news, because there were others that didn't actually get up there. But one in Philadelphia, and then obviously the other one, which is still a lot of mixed reporting about. Cross-dressing sort of action going on there, up to 7 people that were killed in that one. So, we're seeing these attacks, and now, bam, we see this assassination of a public figure in Japan, coming off the heels also of the story I was talking about yesterday with Boris Johnson being booted out. And it's like, whoa, what's happening to the upper level now of our politics? What is going on here? But one thing we need to take away from this, and I've watched a lot of the footage thus far, And it really hits home for me. Situational awareness. We need to keep our eyes open when we're out in the world. I can't stress this enough. Head on a swivel, eyes like dinner plates, looking around, taking in the information that's happening around us. Threats are out there. And I want to just put this forward as well. This is in a country that has almost an utter ban on weapons and has a total ban on firearms. This person was assassinated with a firearm in a country that has not had access, does not give their civilian population access to firearms since 1945. Okay? Just so next time somebody's going, it's all the guns. Well, guns don't float around in the air shooting people. They're driven. They're a tool that are driven by human beings, and the human beings are the problem. And banning guns and going down that path, that might be effective in some ways, and in other ways, we can clearly see that it is not. That they can be manufactured, they can be made, they can be gotten by people if they really want to, especially if they ignore those fundamental rules, those laws. So that's something to think about as well today. But again, situational awareness is a big thing. These threats can happen anywhere. They can happen to anyone. Keep your eyes open when you're out there. Assume that you're walking into a potential threat space anytime you're in a public space. I'm not saying freak out. I'm not saying be looking around for threats. Just don't be blocking your attention. Allow your attention to do what it does. Allow your brain to do what it was evolved to do over hundreds of thousands of years. It will detect threats within a space. That's what our brain does very, very well, amongst other things. But it will do it as long as we're not blocking it by staring at a phone, as long as we're not blocking it by putting headphones in or distracting ourselves somehow or staring at our feet or going, nope, I don't want to see the world. I don't want to see the world. Just keep your head up, keep your eyes open, stay safe out there. As always, if you've got any questions, gang, send them through to me. Keep prepping, keep staying safe, keep storing up that food, get out and garden if it's nice and sunny where you are. Please do that. But that's it for today. So until next time, Semper Paratus.